Johan, can you
Yes.
start?
Hi, hello everybody. My name is Johan, as Bart said. Currently, for a bit of background as to why I'm here, is that I'm working as an IT architect for a large multi-brand retail company in Belgium, also for the Europe region. And within that context, I come in contact with a lot of cybersecurity. I'm by no means a cybersecurity expert as such, but it is something that we push throughout our entire company as a form of consciousness. And it's something that interests me a lot in my free time. So that is a bit of background about me. As for the presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to speak out, and if not, I'll continue going. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Just for internet reasons, my bandwidth is a bit unstable. I might shut down my camera for a moment just to see that I don't lose connection, because when you have kids at home using a lot of bandwidth, it's not the easiest. So, topic of today, cybersecurity, how to protect yourself online. I think it's something that we should all be concerned about, even if you are not working within IT or within a company context. Hacking and phishing is something that we all encounter via different means. So that's why we need to be careful and protect ourselves as much as possible against that. And voilà. Why should you particularly care? I think when you are in contact or have teenage children, you will notice that they spend a lot of time online. On average, 7+ hours. By my personal experience, it's mostly through iPhone or tablet. Less through laptop, and a lot of the time they spend on social media. So that is why you have to be very careful regards to cyberbullying, and they're also far more likely to become the victim of identity theft. The reason behind that is not completely clear to me, but I would imagine that they are unaware of what happens to their data when they give it out too freely. One of the first things that they should be concerned about is when they create online accounts, they should create strong passwords. Over time, we have seen that passwords are easy to brute force. So it's important that you create at least 12 characters or more in your passwords, and that you also use things that are uneasy to combine, in the sense that replacing letters with numbers, taking passwords that are either random or at least not related to your personal life, and also not taking the obvious cases like, as mentioned here, password 123 or ABCDF. From a company context, I can also say that we have a lot of users, ergo a lot of accounts and laptops. And by default, we see that a lot of people never change their passwords from the default that we give them when they receive their laptop, when we onboard them in the company. That is why we as a company, for example, have made it mandatory that you have to replace your password every month. And we also install software on their computer to monitor if they create online accounts for something, that we check that it isn't the password that they use for their account that is linked to the company. We also encourage our users to use a password manager like LastPass or Dashlane, so that you can store these complex passwords. Because when you create a random or a long password, it is not always easy to remember what was the password in the first place. For example, we once had someone working in the company that had a randomly and a long generated passwords. However, she taped the password to her computer screen, so it was visible to everybody that had access to her laptop. So that's not a best practice at all. Like I also mentioned, from a company standpoint, we push users to change every month. But even for yourself personally, it is advised to change your passwords every 3 to 6 months, especially when you are dealing with online banking or everything that is government related, such as government e-boxes, tax filing, all those things you have to be very careful about because it is very sensitive. We also encourage everybody within the company to use two-factor authentication. This is something that you can use in your private life as well, especially when you use banking apps or when you use maybe something more in the crypto universe. It is always encouraged to use two-factor authentication, because even if your password is detected, they still have to authenticate via secondary means, and that way you have a way of controlling through your mobile phone, for example, via an authenticator app, that people can or cannot have access to your account. This is also a clear indicator that you have been hacked or that someone is attempting to hack you, so you can take precautionary steps to prevent this. I don't know if there are any questions at this point. If not, I will smoothly continue. Another thing that we encounter a lot, and especially since the escalation of several world crises such as war, is that we see a lot more phishing attacks on a company level, where they send mails to the entire IT department, to even to the company, and it is becoming a serious threat up to the point that we use an external company to train our users in scamming and phishing. One of the things that we teach them is to verify who is sending you emails, because it is very easy to change names, but you have to be very careful of the complete email addresses that they use. We also train them in alertness in terms of the urgency of a certain mail. If it is like your bill is overdue, or you have to pay X amount, or your account will be closed down, these are all clear indicators that this could potentially be a phishing email. It is also recommended that when you have an email with links, that you do not use the links in the mail directly, or at least hover over them before clicking. For example, our accountancy team is trained to never click on a link if it is banking related. If they have doubts, they check via the banking application directly. On a more personal level, we also advise social media safety. Never display your phone number, your full address, for example, also school. If you go on a holiday, post your pictures after the holiday so that people cannot see that you are currently away from the home, or so maybe in case of burglary. We also advise to check your privacy settings regularly. And when you have pictures that you post, even when we post pictures on the company social media channel, we are very careful with the content that is displayed. It is always double checked by someone of the security team to verify that nothing is shown. For example, if we are filming content in our physical stores, we also make sure that they do not film near the registers. You never know that sensitive data might show up, or passwords. Another solid test, not only in security, but also when you are developing, is the grandparent tests. Here it is the case that if you do not think that the content is feasible for your grandparents to see, maybe you shouldn't show it, or at least not in a public way via social media. If, however, you are hacked, I can already tell you, don't worry, it will happen eventually to everybody. The first step indeed is don't panic. Most situations can indeed be resolved if you act quickly and methodically. First step is always change every password that you have on the account. And even if you have similar accounts in terms of email address or password, to change those immediately as well. As mentioned before, immediately enable two-factor authentication as well if you wouldn't have it already active. Also inform everybody that you are in contact with so that they know. For example, I think we all know the Facebook scam where people are hacked and they start sharing content that is very unlike them, is to notify everybody that you have been hacked and that any posts that would come from your accounts are also suspicious, and they shouldn't react to them, nor should they click on anything that you post. Another good step to do, depending on the country that you live in, I only know Belgian regulation, is to notify the Federal Computer Crime Unit, for example, to notify them in case it is banking related. Also immediately inform the financial authorities, maybe even the police, because you never know, unlikely as it may seem, that something can be traced back and that they can block something before it is lost forever. Especially if you are active in cryptocurrency, this is becoming a bigger and bigger risk because it can disappear very quickly. And I've even known cases where the scammers act like police, and that they are verifying in the case of another incident and they need your account data. And it sounds very scary when you get the call. In terms of a digital safety checklist, I think it's important to keep everything updated. This is also true within our company. We patch everything on the regular. We have an infrastructure team that applies patches monthly. We do checkups via external companies to verify that we do not have any threats that we are unaware of. We have ethical hackers that also try to hack our systems because we have a large online shop presence. So we also want to make sure that we never dispose any personal or payment related data via that way. Another good tip is to be very careful when you are using a publicly available Wi-Fi. For example, in shops, warehouses, hotels, trains even, I believe, it is advised to never use that to check on anything that is at least financial or even personal. If you are on your mobile phone and you want to check your banking, I always advise to disable the Wi-Fi and to use your 4G, 5G connection directly. That way you have more security as to who can intercept your messages. And as always, trust your instincts. If your gut tells you this is too good to be true, or it seems unlikely that this would be the case, then it most always is an issue. And always be careful on that. As for the younger people online, I think it's a very dangerous place. Being 40 plus years of age, I think it's even hard for me working within IT to grasp everything that they are doing, to be aware of the environment that they are working in, and the tools that they are using. So they have to be very, very careful. There is always and this is not a bad tip at all, is to check up on yourself and your loved ones to see what data you can find out about yourself. If you Google yourself within a private browser, what data do you see? Do you have any old accounts that are available? Even when you are looking for a job or applying for college, this is a good step to do because it most likely the schools will Google you as well. So you have to be very aware of what information is out there about you. Has your data been compromised? In case of data breaches, major companies experience security breaches. And I think that's a lot more than we think and a lot more than they are willing